Have you ever met someone who seemed charming at first, but slowly revealed a darkness you couldn't quite name? Someone who could lie without flinching, manipulate without guilt, and walk away from destruction they caused without looking back? You weren't imagining it. You were face to face with the Dark Triad. Let me tell you about three personality traits that psychologists have spent decades trying to understand. Traits that live in the shadow of human nature, quietly shaping the world around us in ways most people never notice. Narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. Together, they form what researchers call the Dark Triad, a constellation of characteristics that can make someone simultaneously magnetic and dangerous. The term was coined in 2002 by psychologists Delroy Paulhus and Kevin Williams. They weren't trying to create a clinical diagnosis or label people as villains. They were trying to understand a pattern they kept seeing in their research. A pattern of behavior that traditional personality psychology couldn't fully explain. These three traits overlap in fascinating ways, yet each brings its own flavor of darkness to the mix. Let's start with narcissism. Picture someone who walks into a room and immediately needs to be the center of attention. Not just wants it, needs it, like oxygen. Narcissism isn't just about loving yourself too much. It's about constructing an inflated self-image so fragile that it requires constant external validation to survive. The narcissist believes they are special, exceptional, deserving of admiration without having to earn it. They crave praise the way an addict craves their next fix. And when they don't get it, when reality threatens to puncture that grandiose self-image, they can become vindictive, cruel, even violent. But here's what makes narcissism so insidious. These individuals often possess genuine charisma. They can be charming, confident, even inspiring at first glance. They know how to present themselves, how to craft an image that draws people in. Social media has become their playground, a stage where they can curate a perfect reflection of the fantasy they've built about themselves. Research from 2024 shows that narcissistic traits correlate strongly with the number of selfies posted, the need for likes and comments, and the tendency to romanticize one's own life online while simultaneously envying others who receive more attention. In relationships, narcissists are exhausting. They treat people like mirrors, valued only for the reflection they provide. If you stop reflecting their greatness back to them, you become disposable. They lack genuine empathy, not because they can't understand what others feel, but because others' feelings simply don't matter as much as their own need for admiration. A 2024 study published in the Journal of Personality found something disturbing. Narcissists are actually happier in relationships when their partner is also narcissistic. Why? Because, two, narcissists understand the game they're both playing. They recognize the performance, the mutual exploitation masked as love. Now let's talk about Machiavellianism. The name comes from Niccolò Machiavelli, the Italian philosopher who wrote The Prince in the 16th century, a book that essentially outlined how to gain and maintain political power through manipulation, deception, and strategic cruelty. People high in Machiavellianism see the world as a chessboard. Everyone else is a piece to be moved, used, and sacrificed if necessary. They are masters of strategy, always thinking 3 moves ahead, always calculating the best way to achieve their goals, regardless of who gets hurt in the process. What makes Machiavellians particularly dangerous is their patience. Unlike narcissists who need immediate gratification, Machiavellians are willing to play the long game. They'll befriend you, gain your trust, learn your weaknesses, and then, when the moment is right, they'll exploit everything they've learned. They don't do this out of malice necessarily. They do it because, to them, this is simply how the world works. Morality is a social construct to be manipulated, not a principle to be followed. In the workplace, Machiavellians thrive. Research shows they're more likely to engage in unethical behavior to get ahead, more likely to take credit for others' work, more likely to sabotage colleagues they see as competition. But they're also skilled at hiding these behaviors behind a veneer of professionalism. They know exactly what to say, when to say it, and who to say it to. They're the colleague who seems supportive in meetings, but undermines you behind closed doors. The friend who always knows your secrets, but somehow their secrets never quite make it to your ears. A fascinating 2024 study examined Machiavellianism in the context of modern technology. Researchers found that individuals high in this trait were significantly more likely to engage in cyber dating abuse, using technology to monitor, control, and manipulate their romantic partners. They track locations, read messages, use information gathered online to create elaborate lies and cover stories. The digital age has given Machiavellians new tools, and they've learned to use them with terrifying efficiency. Then there's psychopathy. This is the trait that makes people most uncomfortable, probably because it's the one that sounds most like something from a crime documentary. But here's the truth about psychopathy. Most psychopaths aren't serial killers. They're not lurking in dark alleys with knives. They're sitting next to you in the office, dating your friend, maybe even related to you. Subclinical psychopathy, the kind measured in Dark Triad research, is about emotional deficits, not violence. Psychopaths lack empathy, but not in the way narcissists do. Narcissists can feel empathy. They just prioritize their own needs above it. Psychopaths genuinely struggle to emotionally connect with others' suffering. When you cry, they might understand intellectually that you're sad, but they don't feel that understanding in their gut the way most people do. This emotional blindness gives them a strange kind of freedom. They can make decisions without being weighed down by guilt, fear, or concern for others. Research using brain imaging has revealed something remarkable. In 2024, scientists found that individuals high in psychopathic traits show reduced gray matter in regions of the brain associated with empathy and emotional regulation. The amygdala, the part of the brain that processes fear and emotional responses, functions differently in people with psychopathic tendencies. It's not that they choose not to care. At a neurological level, their brains are wired differently. Psychopaths are also characterized by impulsivity and thrill-seeking behavior. They get bored easily, crave stimulation, take risks that would terrify most people. This can make them exciting to be around, at least initially. They're the ones suggesting spontaneous road trips, pushing boundaries, living without apparent concern for consequences. But this impulsivity also makes them unreliable, unpredictable, and sometimes dangerous. They act on urges without considering how their actions affect others, not because they're evil, but because the neural circuitry that usually pumps the brakes on dangerous behavior simply isn't working the same way. Now here's where it gets really interesting. These three traits, narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy, are distinct but overlapping. Research consistently shows that they correlate with each other and with one broader personality dimension: low agreeableness. People high in Dark Triad traits are not kind, not considerate, not cooperative, unless being those things serves their purposes. They share a common core, a willingness to exploit others, a lack of genuine concern for other people's well-being, a strategic approach to human relationships. But they express this core in different ways. The narcissist exploits others to feed their ego. The Machiavellian exploits others to achieve their goals. The psychopath exploits others because they lack the emotional barriers that usually prevent exploitation. In practice, These tendencies blend together in varying proportions. Someone might be high in narcissism and Machiavellianism, but low in psychopathy. Another person might score high on all three. The combinations create a spectrum of dark personality profiles, each with its own particular flavor of toxicity. One of the most disturbing findings in recent research is how common these traits are in positions of power. Studies have shown elevated dark triad traits among corporate executives, politicians, and other leadership roles. Why? Because in certain environments, these traits are actually advantages. The ruthlessness of a Machiavellian helps them climb the corporate ladder. The confidence of a narcissist makes them compelling public speakers. The fearlessness of a psychopath helps them make tough decisions without hesitation. Society sometimes rewards exactly the traits that make someone difficult to trust. But these traits come with costs that aren't always visible from the outside. A 2024 study found that while people high in dark triad traits often achieve external markers of success, they consistently report lower levels of genuine life satisfaction. The narcissist is never admired enough. The Machiavellian can never fully trust anyone because they assume everyone is playing the same game they are. The psychopath experiences life with emotional volume turned down to almost nothing, missing out on the depth of human connection that gives life meaning. They win the game, but lose something essential in the process. And what about the people around them? The collateral damage of dark triad personalities is real and measurable. Research links these traits to increased rates of intimate partner violence, both physical and psychological. A groundbreaking 2025 study found that dark triad traits, especially psychopathy, predict cyber dating abuse. Partners of people high in these traits report higher levels of anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress. Children raised by parents with strong dark triad characteristics often struggle with trust, self-esteem, and their own emotional regulation. In the workplace, dark triad traits correlate with counterproductive work behaviors. Theft, sabotage, harassment, creating hostile environments. Teams led by managers high in these traits show lower morale, higher turnover, and decreased productivity over time. The short-term gains these individuals achieve through manipulation and exploitation eventually give way to long-term dysfunction. But by the time the damage becomes obvious, they've often moved on to their next target, leaving others to clean up the mess. One of the most surprising findings in recent research involves change. For years, psychologists assumed personality traits were relatively fixed, especially traits as deeply ingrained as the dark triad. But a fascinating 2024 study by Nathan Hudson at Southern Methodist University challenged that assumption. He had over 460 students complete tasks designed to increase agreeableness, traits like kindness, consideration, helpfulness. Things like donating money they would normally spend on themselves, talking to strangers, and asking about their lives, performing random acts of kindness. The results were remarkable. Over 4 months, participants who completed these agreeableness-building tasks showed significant decreases in all 3 dark triad traits. Even more surprisingly, this happened regardless of whether participants actually wanted to reduce their dark traits. Many of them, particularly those high in Machiavellianism, actually wanted to increase their manipulative abilities. But the act of practicing pro-social behavior changed them. Anyway, it's as if kindness, when practiced consistently, rewrites the script that dark personality traits follow. This finding offers something rare in dark triad research: hope. It suggests that these traits, while deeply rooted, aren't destiny. That someone who recognizes these patterns in themselves has the capacity to change, not through willpower or insight alone, but through the slow, deliberate practice of behaviors that contradict their darker impulses. It won't be easy. The narcissist must practice humility. The Machiavellian must practice honesty. The psychopath must practice connection. But it's possible. So what do you do if you suspect someone in your life has Dark Triad traits? First, trust your instincts. If someone makes you feel constantly off balance, if you find yourself making excuses for their behavior, if the relationship feels more like a performance than genuine connection, pay attention to that feeling. Second, set boundaries and enforce them. People high in Dark Triad traits are skilled at testing limits, pushing boundaries, making you doubt your own perceptions. Clear, consistent boundaries are your best defense. Third, document interactions. Machiavellians in particular are masters at gaslighting, at rewriting history to suit their narrative. Keep records of conversations, promises, agreements. This isn't paranoia. It's protecting yourself from someone who views truth as negotiable. Fourth, don't expect them to change because you want them to. Change, when it happens, must come from within. Your love, your patience, your sacrifice will not fix someone who doesn't see themselves as broken. And finally, protect yourself emotionally. People high in Dark Triad traits can be incredibly charming, and that charm can make you believe that this time will be different, that they really do care, that the person you glimpsed beneath the manipulation is real. Maybe it is, but charm without empathy, confidence without conscience, charisma without care, these things create relationships that will drain you. You deserve relationships that nourish you, not ones that require you to constantly defend your reality. The Dark Triad reminds us that human nature is complex, containing capacities for both profound connection and calculated exploitation. Most of us exist somewhere in the middle, capable of selfishness and generosity, manipulation and honesty, depending on the circumstances. But some people live further out on that spectrum, in psychological territory where others' humanity becomes abstract, where relationships are transactions, where the self is the only thing that truly matters. Understanding the Dark Triad doesn't mean becoming cynical or suspicious of everyone. It means developing psychological literacy, learning to recognize patterns of behavior that signal danger. It means protecting yourself and others from harm, while also recognizing that even people with dark traits are, in the end, still human. Shaped by genetics, environment, experience, and choice. Capable of harm? Yes, but also, perhaps, capable of change. The darkness in human nature exists. But so does the light. So does the capacity for empathy, for genuine connection, for choosing kindness even when cruelty would be easier. The Dark Triad shows us one possibility of what humans can become. But it's not the only possibility, not even close. If you found this exploration into the psychology of personality fascinating, consider subscribing to stay curious about the hidden patterns that shape human behavior. Drop a like if this changed how you think about the people in your life. And comment below with your city. I'd love to know where you're watching from.